in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Jenna Ellis in the morning on American Family Radio.
I love talking about the things of God because of truth and the biblical worldview.
The U.S. Constitution obligates our government to preserve and protect the rights that our founders recognize come from God, our Creator, not our government. I believe that Scripture in the Bible is very clear that God is the one that raised up each of you, and God has allowed us to be brought here to this specific moment in time.
This is Jenna Ellis in the morning.
Welcome to Jenna Ellis in the morning. I am not Jenna Ellis. I'm Ryan Helfenbein. I'm Vice President of Communications and Public Engagement at Liberty University. I'm also the founding executive director of the Standing for Freedom Center, also at the same institution. And I am actually going to be your guest host today on American Family Radio and Jenna Ellis in the morning. And what a night it was for our nation. Many of you, you might be wondering, some of you might be wondering, what am I talking about? Did you watch the State of the Union? I know my family did. I did. We do not miss it. It's an educational opportunity, but we had the opportunity to hear yet again from our president, 47th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and giving direct address. This would have been, I guess, for the sixth time, that he would present a State of the Union. But he has given many direct addresses before. And last night's speech certainly had plenty of things to talk about. And we're going to spend this segment and the next segment talking about last night's State of the Union. I'm just reminded in just a very, very short time how much things can change in the United States of America. It's hard to believe it has already been 1 year since he has taken the oath of office. It's hard to believe that we had 4 years of Joe Biden. But when you think about all of the things that needed to transpire, economic policy, border security, foreign policy, tariffs, all of those questions that certainly need to be addressed and certainly would make a difference in terms of the prosperity of a nation and the security of the nation. We have to recognize, too, that God is at work when it comes to the affairs of men, when it comes to human affairs. And I'm reminded of that Proverbs chapter 14, verse 34, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin condemns any people. And so when we get to the State of the Union, of course, it doesn't matter who the leader of the party is. We listen to the President of the United States. We have to recognize, too, that president enacts certain policies, executive orders, puts things into play, and sets an agenda before the people. And certainly when it comes to righteousness, and this is always top of mind for me, but it's the issue of the unborn. It's the issue of the sanctity of human life. It's the issue of marriage and family. All of those things matter. And certainly there has been a major pivot from this presidential administration with regard to various policies, defense of life, and certainly of family and children than in the previous generation. And so lots of things came up last night. Lots that was on the agenda, lots of things that were discussed, not the least of which was the economic turnaround, the all the things that were being done about inflation, tax policies, the tax cut, largest one in U.S. history for American working families, no taxes on tip, no taxes on overtime, putting more money back in American pockets. That is huge. And then you think about where we were just a few short years ago with Biden inflation. Biden inflation was huge. This is while he wanted to continue in 2021, the lockdowns. And the lockdowns was a huge depressor to our international supply chains. And you think about the fact that many American workers were furloughed, many factories were shut down. You think about also the fact that internationally there was not a whole lot of things that were going on. Most of our protection equipment was coming from China at the time. They printed somewhere between $10 trillion in cash money. And of course, that led to a huge inflation when it comes to our bottom line, the price of gasoline, the price of food, the price of medicine. All these things started to go up during the Biden era. And that impacted everyone. And then you mentioned if we were to go back and look at what happened just a few short years ago, the number of people that had to get the jab or to lose their job, all of that had a huge impact on the economy. And so the question is, where are we now? We still have Americans who live on food stamps, but far less. We still have higher prices, but those prices have come down and they've been stabilized. Inflation in the last part of Q4 of 2025 was at 1.7%. And so there's been a stabilizing factor with Trump policies and the Trump administration. Obviously, the low tax is going to be a huge impact in the middle of this second quarter. I think many Americans are going to feel that when they get a refund back and recognize, okay, there is a little bit more money to go around this year, but wages will still have to catch up, and that's going to take a little bit longer time. One of the things that I was so looking forward to seeing and hearing was just the policies regarding FHA and affordable housing. And when you think about over the past decade or so or more, there have been a lot of foreign entities that have come into the United States and they've purchased homes. There have been large REITs that have purchased homes, real estate trusts that have gone in and have made renters out of many single occupancy homes across the country. Certain places are certainly bigger than others. You think about Houston, Texas, or Phoenix, Arizona. There's parts of Florida that are covered. The map is saturated with multiple occupancy homes or homes that were ultimately designed to be sold, but instead have become either owned by American banks or even by foreign entities. China owns millions of homes in the United States, or in the hundreds of thousands, I should say, at least. But they own billions of dollars of American real estate and have turned single-family homes into rental properties. And the question is why is there so much inflation when it comes to housing? It's more than double the inflation of everything else, and it is more than doubled the rise in wages, going all the way back to 1981. This was when President Reagan was in office. The average homeowner, the first-time homeowner, was just 29 years of age, and the average home buyer was 31 years of age. You fast forward to today, and the average home buyer today is in their mid-50s, a Gen Xer, and the average first-time home owner in the United States right now is someone in their early 40s. That would be somebody who might be a Zennial or an older millennial, but certainly not a Gen Zer. And so we look at that and say, wow, something has to be done. Of course, the president did do an EO just not that long ago, several weeks ago. We've covered this at the Freedom Center, and Jenna's covered this on her show as well. But regarding foreign, or rather real estate trusts, REITs, who have come in and have used cash to buy homes, Oftentimes, they're able to circumvent a process that a regular person like me or you would have to go through to go to a bank, to get a loan, fully privatized, and then to go and to bid on a home. A lot of these corporations can come in, and they can come in with cash money. They can put an offer on a home and snag a home up from a regular average Joe buyer. Those types of questions and more were the subject of last night's State of the Union. And of course, when it comes to the reduction of violent crime, and this is probably one of the most startling numbers that the president revealed last night, violent crime and murders are at the lowest in the United States in 125 years. And that is thanks largely to, yes, CBP and ICE, absolutely, when it comes to policing, and then also the deployment of the National Guard to many of our cities across the country. I live just a few short hours away from Washington, D.C., and I can tell you that as for me and my family, yes, it is noticeably safer when you drive into Washington, D.C. It is noticeably safer when you are finding a parking spot and you think, should I leave my vehicle in this neighborhood? Should I park it in this parking garage? Do I feel safe walking out in the street? I'm a father. I have 3 daughters. Let me just say this. I think about my girls. Is this a safe place for them to go walking around in? And I can say there is a huge difference in the way DC looks today versus the way it looked just about a year ago. So yes, crime is down. It's down in many cities across the country. It's a good reminder that yes, crime is a choice. It's a choice when it comes to policy and whether or not crimes are going to be punishable and punishable by the fullest extent of the law, not just allowing people to do whatever they want in the streets. Now, this is the kind of stuff that leadership demands, and this is the kind of thing that leadership influences and changes. That verse again is Proverbs chapter 14, verse 34. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin condemns any people. It does matter who the president of the United States is. It does matter what policies are enacted, and there is cause and effect. There are results from enacting crime policies. If you tolerate crime, crime's going to come to your city. If there is no punishment for crime, if there's cashless bail, then we have the tragedies of Irina Zarutska and many other young girls whose lives have been taken from them mercilessly by ruthless thugs and killers. So crime does matter. It does matter what policies are enacted. And I think that one of the things that the Trump administration has done rather brilliantly is by declaring a certain emergency and deploying National Guard. It has forced the issue. And then, of course, it has given local law enforcement the support that they need and the stabilizing effect they need in order to do their job. Certainly, National Guard doesn't need to be making arrests, but local police do. And to have that kind of backup and that kind of presence certainly communicates to the American people the seriousness of all of this. There's so much more to discuss, and we will on the show today. Things that were discussed last night. For many people, I think I was really watching because I wanted to see the Olympic men's hockey team come up. We will talk about that in the next segment. But what an incredible opportunity for the nation once again to be reoriented with the policies of this president and to recognize where we're going. We'll stick around, folks, and we'll be right back in the next segment. Thank you for listening to Jenna Ellis in the Morning.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about debt settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my bills, I saved thousands, and I even improved my credit score.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-788-1813.
How about this? Some actual good news on the healthcare front, even as costs just keep skyrocketing. So if you're 65 or older, MediShare now offers MediShare 65 Plus. Call them. You can talk to them about this. A lot of people are taking advantage of this now because even if you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are out-of-pocket things, deductibles and copays that just keep going up. And the whole point is to help you by giving you a low, consistent monthly payment that fills in the gaps. In fact, I can tell you how much MediShare 65 Plus is. For example, it's $99 a month up to age 75. It keeps costs under control. That helps with peace of mind. MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around for 30 years, and it's a community of people who help each other. Business owners, retirees, pastors, teachers. People love being part of it. Here's the number you can call now. They are easy to talk to. Call 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE, 833-45-BIBLE.
Hello, Americans. I'm Todd Starnes. Stand by for news and commentary next. Something special happened at the Winter Olympics. It's a rare moment when a sports team can unite the country, but that is what happened on Sunday when the men's hockey team won not only the gold, but they won the hearts of a nation. Millions of Americans watched the game from living rooms and neighborhood pubs, and many even watched on their smartphones tucked away in pews during church. That could explain the spontaneous shouts of praise the Lord during the preacher's sermon. But not everyone was proud to be an American on Sunday. Huffington Post writer Monica Torres penned a scathing attack on our country. She said that many of our fellow countrymen are turned off by waving Old Glory, chanting USA. Now you understand why many news organizations in America are now filing for bankruptcy. And if you really do get turned off by the red, white, and blue, well, I'd recommend moving to Canada. I'm Todd Starnes.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning. This is Ryan Helfenbein. I'm guest host today, Vice President of Communications and Public Engagement at Liberty University. And on this next segment, we're going to be continuing a conversation about the State of the Union. Many heroes were honored last night, and I was teary-eyed. I know my family, as we were watching, this is one of the things that we love to see. Let me just say this. I have been to the Congressional Medal of Honor Museum. It's actually in Dallas-Fort Worth. You need to go with a box of tissue. If you ever get to go there, what an incredible place. It's not too far from the Cowboy Stadium. It's not too far from the airport. If you're ever passing through, it is worth the time. And there were two last night, Medal of Honor recipients, Navy Captain E. Royce Williams and Army Chief Warrant Officer Eric Slaver. Eric, of course, was shot just very, very close range. And he was wounded, and he was able to survive that. But what an incredible story of heroism, of bravery, of both of them. And if your heart doesn't melt when you see a 100-year-old man, a hero of the Korean War, receiving the Medal of Honor, having it wrapped around his neck by the First Lady, I tell you, you don't have a heart. That was just incredible. And so I was brought to tears. But there was a lot of other celebrating. and many other heroes last night who received recognition. Andrew Wolf got a Purple Heart, and he, of course, was someone that was shot in the head. This was just a few weeks ago, and while he was on duty, and it was an act of terror, and he received a Purple Heart last night. I want to welcome into the room a guest who is an alum, actually, of Liberty University and of the Standing for Freedom Center, and is currently a contributor over at the Daily Wire, and that is Allen Moro. Good morning, Allen, and welcome.
Good morning, Ryan. It's so great to be with you.
Hey, I think you were probably pretty excited last night to watch the State of the Union. I have to ask what everybody's probably thinking. Did you watch the U.S. men's hockey team stand up, get a standing ovation from the crowd? By the way, some of the Democrats actually stood up and clapped for them.
Yes, that was such a fun moment. You know, usually the State of the Union, it has a lot of important topics. There's a lot of controversial things that go on. You don't usually get to see like this championship hockey team come in and show off their medals. And it was like one time where the whole room, for the most part, seemed to be on the same page. And then President Trump threw that little jab over to the Democrats in the room and said, "Wow, this is the first time I've seen you guys get up." But overall, I thought it was actually a really neat and unifying moment. And I'm so glad the guys got to come and be there for the State of the Union.
Yes, absolutely. Tell me this. Did you get to catch any of the Olympics this year? Did you watch the U.S. men's hockey team, or did you see highlights of it?
I did see highlights, but to be honest with you, I am not a great American in that regard. I look for the highlights, and then I go over to Daily Wire and I'll report on what happened. Or after the hockey team won, we were all excited and putting out a lot of content. But to be honest with you, I was watching the score updates on Twitter.
Yes, yeah. I think that's me. That's a lot of people. We find out what the important stories are, and then we watch and track with them as they develop. I would love to. When I was a kid, I used to watch the Olympics all the time. I never missed. And the older I get, the more scarce my time is. My girls, so I have a son and I have 3 daughters. They love watching the bobsled, and they also like watching the figure skating. And I'll leave you to guess which, the boy or the girls, which one likes to actually see the bobsledding versus the figure skating. But there you go. So watching last night, Allen, of course, there were many heroes that were championed and lionized, the American heroes that were up in the gallery. And then, of course, we were rooting on the men's team. There was also the story of Sage Blair. And Sage, that was the one that was here in Virginia. She was the girl through Appomattox County High School in Virginia. She began at age 14 identifying as a male, and that school encouraged her. School counselor actually encouraged her to transition, new name, dad naming her old name. And doing all of this, of course, without notifying her parents and legal guardians, without notifying her mother, Michelle. They encouraged her to do this. And then she, of course, experienced all kinds of harassment, all kinds of assault threats. And this went on as she was using the boys' bathroom. And then this ultimately led to her fleeing and trying to run away. And then she was also abducted by sex traffickers. Her story is quite harrowing. It's incredible. She escaped. She was reunited with her family. The family then sued the school board. And so Trump is recognizing her last night, and then he gives credit to even not only to Sage and Michelle, her mother, but then says, and she's going to be receiving She's receiving a scholarship to attend Liberty University. You're a Liberty alum. What are your thoughts just as you not only give appraisal to that, but then also just the fact that she's coming to Liberty University?
Well, at first, when I heard President Trump say Liberty University, I was like, what? Like, I was unfamiliar with the story. I was unfamiliar with Sage's experience. And I was so proud in that moment. And, you know, we were all at work. And as Liberty got mentioned, everyone around me looked at me. And it was a moment where it was like, wow, I'm really proud to, even though I'm not at Liberty anymore, be a part of the broader mission of Liberty University as someone who was trained there and is now using the education I got there in an effort to, you know, fulfill Liberty's mission.
Absolutely.
And also,
what is that mission, by the way?
Training champions for Christ.
Amen.
And
keep
going out into the world and, you know, fulfilling the Great Commission in every sphere of life with excellence.
Absolutely. Trump says this last night. He says, surely we can all agree that no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. And that's when he pointed out that, and this is sickening, but this is the state of our politics. And as I said in the first segment, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin condemns a nation. No Democrat applauded that line. No Democrat was standing up for the defense of children and for the defense of their parents and parental rights. No Democrat wanted to stand up for that. Well, what are your thoughts there?
Ryan, I think we saw two different opposing views of America on display in their fullness. You saw President Trump not only recognizing world war heroes and athletic heroes in the Olympics, but also people whose stories directly explain why the left's view of immigration policy and of gender, all of these things are causing this direct harm. And watching the Democrats, you know, even refuse to stand when President Trump said, can you stand if you believe that it's the first duty of the American government to protect American citizens and not illegal aliens? I think that in so many ways this was a defining speech, mainly because of what the Democrats refused to stand for. And I think that the American people, if they were watching, you know, the heroes being recognized and all of the things that exemplify the best of what it means to be an American portrayed by one side, and then the other side, you know, with profanity on their pins, screaming at the president and refusing to stand for things that all Americans should stand for, I think it sent a pretty clear message. And I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of references to last night in campaign messaging in 2026 and even 2028.
Okay, so very important, right? Because this is the leading edge of a year. And this is really the start. You know, the campaign season is well underway. Many primaries are happening soon. I know on March 3rd, California, Texas, numerous other states are going to have their primary. The questions regarding those are going to be surrounding Sharia law. And there are going to be all kinds of other issues. And, of course, the State of the Union last night helped to kick that off. I love what you said, though, that this is a contrast between two visions in America, two entirely different identities. And I'll say there's probably a lot of people this morning that are praying that the greater vision is the vision of life. The greater vision is the one of freedom, of liberty. The greater vision is the one of the pursuit of happiness, that in the 250th year of our country, we're celebrating the kind of America that we want to leave on to our children and to the next generation. So take us home with this. What are some of the things that are going to be big campaign issues in 2026 that are going to have impact on the midterms? We have pretty much a split House with the Republican majority. We've got a few extra Senate seats. What is that for Republicans? What is that looking like, though, when it comes to policies that should be campaigned on this year?
Absolutely. I think that obviously number one going into 2026 specifically is going to be, this issue of economics and affordability. I think that in a lot of ways we can see that President Trump inherited a really bad economy with really bad inflation, and a lot of the deregulatory actions and the policies of this administration are helping to remedy that. It takes some time, and the president and the Republicans, I think, have to message on that in a way that doesn't make it feel like people are being ignored or like that this issue doesn't matter to the administration. It does, and I think that messaging can be tightened up. And again, I think that, in a lot of ways we've won the war on woke. It's not 2020 anymore. But, there's still headlines about men and women's sports in, high schools. There's still these issues, like you mentioned, Sharia law in Texas, of all places. I think that the social issues, the issues that a lot of us are really, the reason we're in this fight, the reason I'm in this fight isn't necessarily because of economic policy. It's the social issues that got me here. And now I obviously believe in the importance of economic policy. But I don't think it's time to discount the social issues. I think that stories like Sage's and then, of course, immigration, deportations, I think that the American people in 2024 sent a clear message that we don't want illegal aliens and especially illegal alien criminals here. And I think that if Republicans can get on board with those issues and that they can message effectively and show how they are trying to remedy these things, that 2026 and 28 can be successful for the GOP.
Let me ask you this. I wholeheartedly agree. Everything you just said there, it's been a tendency in the past and in previous generations for Republicans to peel off of social issues. This is, you're too young to know this, Allen, but this was the taxed enough already kind of era. We just talk about fiscal policy. Hey, if I don't have to pay for it, leave me alone. I don't want to pay for it. I don't care about what's going on in that guy's bedroom or that person's bedroom, as long as I don't have to pay for it, right? That was kind of like the mantra, and that kind of defined boomer conservatism for a period of time because it felt like, man, we were really losing on these social issues. And so people didn't want to talk about it. Don't campaign on it. Just talk about economics. Don't talk about social policy. But you can't run and hide from them, as we've learned. And the LGBT movement doesn't just have plans to hold hands at Disney World. The LGBT movement actually has plans to tell your guidance counselor what to tell your daughter when it comes to dysphoria, right? And is going to force parents to abide by it. That's really the aim of the movement. It's not skipping through Disneyland. It's actually far more malicious than that. So why is it so important? We just got about a minute left here. Why is it so important that Republicans continue to show that these solutions work? They're actually addressing problems that most average Americans do, in fact, care about.
There's a popular phrase, Ryan, and it's usually applied to people's personal spiritual lives. But it says that sin keeps you longer than you wanted to stay, and it takes you further than you wanted to go. And I think that in so many ways that applies to our broader context in American policy on social issues. We give in, we allow, the nation allows gay marriage and in Obergefell. And then 10 years later, less than 10 years later, they're transitioning kids. These issues, one, they're all slippery slopes. And two, the role of government is not just to be an economic, supervisor. Government has a specific role outlined by Scripture, and a lot of that is crushing evil and promoting the good.
Yes, absolutely. Allen, well said, brother. And a graduate of Liberty University and course over at Daily Wire. Thank you so much for joining Jenna Ellis in the morning and for sharing your thoughts, brother. Really appreciate that. But it all matters. All matters, folks. In this final segment, we're going to wrap up State of the Union, and I have another guest to bring on as well. Stick around, folks. We'll be right back.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
The term providence means God's superintending care over his creation.
America's Providential History with Stephen McDowell.
God is at work performing his will in history. And so through this podcast, we're going to be taking a look at the providence of God in the history, and in particular in the history of America.
America's Providential History. Available now on the podcast page at afr.net.
They said to each other, "Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures?" My name is Abraham Hamilton III, and this is the Hamilton Minute. These words were shared between Cleopas and his companion on the 7-mile walk from Jerusalem to Emmaus, as Jesus, in resurrected form, used the Hebrew scriptures to reveal himself to them as the Messiah. There are at least 109 distinct biblical prophecies the Messiah had to fulfill. The mathematical probability of such a feat occurring is astoundingly absurd, yet that absurdity is satisfied in Jesus, the Messiah. Come, let us adore him.
Listen each weekday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central for the Hamilton Corner. For more from Abraham Hamilton III, Public Policy Analyst for the American Family Association.
It all came down to the ultrasound, and I saw this little lima bean looking thing with a halo, which I thought was incredible.
A baby wasn't really in the plan for this young mom. Even after seeing a halo on her baby on ultrasound at a preborn network clinic, she was still leaning toward abortion.
And I got to hear the heartbeat, and I got chills. In that moment, I just felt God's arms come around me and hug me and tell me that it was going to be okay.
But after meeting her baby on ultrasound, she chose life.
My choice to become a mom and hear those little footsteps running down the hallway every morning is all because I had an ultrasound. It saved my life and hers.
To find out more about preborn's life-saving work, visit preborn.com/AFR. That's preborn.com/AFR. Your love can save a life.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
And welcome back. This is Ryan Helfenbein, Vice President of Communications and Public Engagement at Liberty University, guest hosting today on Jenna Ellis in the Morning. And so if you've been listening, you know we've been talking about the State of the Union. And last night there was a lot to discuss, lot to view, and a lot to be encouraged by, and then of course to be disgusted by when you saw how many times the Democrats did just not in fact stand. And in this final segment, we're going to talk a lot about the issue at the border, the crisis of immigration. Of course, there are all kinds of estimates of how many illegal crossings were happening under the watch of or the lack thereof, of President Joe Biden. Millions. The conservative estimates are anywhere between 12 and 15. There's other estimates, and then these might be far more realistic, 20 million or more that poured over the southern border into the United States. And these are all kinds of human traffickers, drug traffickers, military-age men. There are Chinese spies. There are people from various international terrorist groups that have no doubt come into the United States during that period of time. It was very porous. And this, of course, was by design. When you think about the number of CDLs and driver's licenses that have been issued in states across the country, and then you think about there is no mechanism in states like California and others to regulate who in fact actually votes. to verify their identification and who they are. You can't buy spray paint at a convenience store, at a hardware store in the United States without showing photo ID. You shouldn't be able to collect food stamps without photo ID. There's, of course, and we've been told for many years that illegal immigrants are not taking advantage of the welfare in this country, but that, of course, has been proven not to be true. Billions of dollars have funneled into these various programs, American taxpayer funded, and have been taken full advantage of by illegal immigrants. And I'm not just saying so they can eat, also to barter and trade and to buy drugs and to do other things with. Let's not be naive. This is how lawlessness works. In this segment, I've actually invited on another guest and somebody who is very instrumental at the Freedom Center at Liberty University. This is Grant May. And he actually is in the position that Allen Moro, who just graduated and moved on, the role that Allen is performing. Grant, good morning. Great to hear you, buddy. Welcome to AFR Radio.
Good morning, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Well, I wanted to talk about something that I know you pay close attention to, and that is the issue of illegal immigration. And in the gallery, of course, last night, we had Allison Phillips, mother of Laken Riley. We had Steve Ronnebeck, father of Grant Ronnebeck. This was the 21-year-old in 2015 by an illegal immigrant from Mexico. And of course, Laken's story, everyone is very familiar. 22-year-old Georgia nursing student was brutally murdered on February the 22nd, 2024, while jogging by Jose Ibarra, a Venezuelan illegal immigrant. And the Venezuelans, of course, their prisons were emptied out. This is a known fact. They were emptied out, and many of them were transported into the United States. Your thoughts on the cinema of all of that, the drama that was being sort of played out last night with Trump's speech, the audience that was there, and then, of course, the folks that were in the gallery.
Well, Ryan, I think Trump once again kind of taught congressional Republicans a lesson. I mean, it was a masterclass in how politics is actually done. He brought these stories before the entire nation. He told them, he retold them. I mean, you even think about Irina Zarutsky's story with her mother there. And then he showed them and he called them out for their refusal to clap for these stories, to support the Americans. I mean, the moment that stole the show, and I think there's lots of moments from State of the Unions that lots of State of the Unions get distilled into one defining moment, whether that be in 2019 when Pelosi ripped up Trump's speech or any of the other like one big defining moments. Trump straight up called out these Democrat legislators last night and said, hey, do you agree with the fundamental principle that you have a higher allegiance to the American citizen or do you have a higher allegiance to an illegal immigrant? And all the Democrats decided to side, save one. I think maybe Fetterman stood and clapped. But all of the Democrats sided with the illegal immigrants. And I think that's very telling. I think congressional Republicans should be cutting ads and running this nationwide before midterms. But you're exactly right. We've been invaded. We were legally invaded and illegally over the course of the Biden administration. You look at some of the Somali fraud that was exposed in Minneapolis. Lots of these people are also here legally because our system was just allowed to be overrun. And the reason it was because of total electoral victory for Democrats. They understand that these are their primary voters. It's part of the reason why they refused to clap for voter ID laws last night. And I think it was just really indicting on the Democrats and telling, and hopefully congressional Republicans take a note from Trump's playbook and get more messaging on this out there for the American people to see.
I think one of the biggest highlights, and we began the show talking about this, but crime down at a historic lowest in 125 years. And that has been fact-checked numerous times. But this is, of course, the deployment of the National Guard. This is, CBP. This is ICE. This is police who are being now encouraged in their cities to actually just do their job. And they have the support that they need from the White House directly in those localities. But lowest in 125 years. And of course, fentanyl is, in terms of what's being trafficked, it's greater than 50% that it's down. In terms of the reporting at the border, it used to be that you would have 1,800 getaways or gotaways a day. Those are those who were arrested and detained, and then they just got away. And that's all the way down to, I think, 38 is the new number. So from 1,800 to 38, that sounds like such a random number. You can't make that one up. It looks like you can just enforce the border. You can just punish crime. You can just shut things down when they're not going right.
Exactly. I mean, American cities can be livable again. We, for some reason, operated under this pretense that, the inner city is just beyond livable. And it's like, no, actually, when you enforce the laws that are already on the books, when you bring in the support that law enforcement needs, America can actually be a paradise. You can look at some of these videos from the 1970s of American cities, 1960s American cities, and they look like these almost utopian societies where everything was clean. There weren't, drugged up homeless people on the sides of the street. Everyone presented themselves nicely. And if you were to show those people a video of today's inner city, specifically like rewind the clock to 2-3 years ago, they would think America in the future was a dystopian reality. I think it was masterful what Trump did, how he brought the message back to law and order, how illegal border crossings are at an all-time low. The murder rate is way down, lowest since the year 1900, which I'm not sure what sort of stats they keep pre-1900, but it's safe to say that this is an incredible record for a law and order president, and we want to keep this up. And I think it's also very telling that there's lots of people that like to complain about Trump's deportation numbers, that he's not doing as many as they want him to, or how many they think mass deportations are, and they like to compare it to Obama's deportation numbers. But there's a really disingenuous thing they do there, because Obama counted anybody that was turned away at the border, who was trying to cross illegally, but they stopped them and say, go back, go home. They counted those as deportations. What Trump is having to do is he's having to round up people who have been living in the country, who are committing crimes, who are raping people, who are murdering people, and send them back. And so I just think it was a masterclass by Trump.
That's so well said and very important. By the way, that's why you do research at the Standing for Freedom Center. And I'm so glad you just said that. A lot of people don't recognize how these numbers are in fact being counted. And when you consider the fact that those numbers by President Obama were being inflated, hyperinflated, to include those that were turned away at the border. And then you also count for the fact that every single arrest, every single person detained now by ICE or by CBP, it is an operation. I mean, you're putting together squad cars. You're having to basically, like a SWAT operation, go into a hostile neighborhood or an apartment complex. I think about the one in Aurora, Colorado, that was overrun by MS-13 gang members. It cost roughly $50,000 per arrest. And some people say, why is it so high? Well, part of the reason it's so high is because this is Kevlar. I mean, you're having to go in with armored vehicles and with Kevlar. These are ruthless people. These are people that will kill you. You can't go in there like a Boy Scout. You have to go in there like a commando and make an arrest, and at the same time not get you or your companions killed in these operations. And so that's exactly what they're trying to do. It is very expensive to equip and to fund it, but it's very costly when it comes to human capital.
There's a lot of people that have been talking about how inhumane deportations are, or it's the most cruel policy ever. Well, they forget that the Trump administration is literally offering money for people to self-deport. They're offering to buy their plane ticket and then give them an additional check of $2,600 per illegal immigrant. So we're literally bribing people with a free plane ticket and $2,600 in their pocket just for them to return to their home. So we don't have to round them up and we don't have to process them and do all the shock and awe that's come with some of these ICE deportations in places like Minneapolis. It really is crazy to see it be twisted into this super inhumane policy when all we're really asking them to do is just go home and come the legal way.
Yes, and that is what we've always been about as a country. We are a nation of laws, and by the way, America is one of the most generous, kind, open, warm, compassionate, forgiving, generous people in the world. And no one gives no single nation gives more to charity. No single nation gives more to global missions. No single nation does more to spread the name and the fame of Jesus Christ than the United States of America. And so as we kind of help me to sort of bring this home, and I think this is one of those things, Grant, for Christians in particular, we care about compassion. I just want to say this. We do care. We understand every single man, woman, and child, regardless of their nation of origin, is made in the image of God. There were folks there like Elon Amar last night, Norma Torres, others who had their guests in the gallery, people that they were saying were being impacted by ICE. That was sort of their counter-signaling or counter-protesting. But we need to recognize as Christians, we cannot be hijacked by compassion and empathy. We need truth. We need to recognize truth in all of this. And the people that have been harmed, like Lake and Riley, and so many others whose lives have been taken from them. Bring it on home, though. Biblical justice when it comes to borders. How do we do that?
Right. So I think that's an excellent question, and it's something every Christian must answer, and they must force themselves to answer it. I think Allie Beth Stuckey and Joel Rigney have done an excellent job writing about the weaponization of empathy. But at the end of the day, look, as Christians, we are called to properly order our affections. This is a long-standing tradition within the Christian faith. Multiple church fathers have written about it all up until, around, say, 1950. We decided to turn this sort of ordering of affections off, right? We as Christians are called to, number one, love God with all of our heart, soul, strength, and mind. And then number two, we're called to love our neighbor as ourselves. There's different levels of this love. It's kind of like the line from The Incredibles, the Disney show The Incredibles. When everyone's super, nobody's super. If you love everyone equally, you actually truly love no one. Paul writes to Timothy that fathers who do not provide for their children are worse than an unbeliever. This isn't to say that you shouldn't care for your neighbor's children, but it is to say that you have a proper higher allegiance to your children than you do the neighbor's children. You're supposed to love your wife more than you love the neighbor's wife. If you don't, that would be pretty messed up. So as Christians, we must grapple with the fact that we actually do owe things to individuals at different levels. And one of those levels is you care for your countrymen over the global.
Yes. Thank you so much, Grant. The Ordo Amorous is undefeated, and that is certainly where we need to think about when it comes to our affections. We have to have them correctly and rightly ordered. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in to Jenna Ellis in the Morning. We'll be back tomorrow with more commentary and more news.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Getting married, starting a family, their eternal values and ideals. These are core values that shaped this country for so long. These are values and ideals that are rooted in Scripture. They're eternal values and ideals.
At the Core with Walker Wildman and Rick Green.